If you have not been living under a rock, you know that plasmoids are being seen in New Jersey and are the cause for the drones in New Jersey. A plasmoid is a coherent structure of plasma and magnetic fields. Plasma is the fourth state of matter and ionized gas. That means it has free electrons. Now stay with me on the free electrons for a moment because I'm going to make some crazy connections. If you're interested in extraterrestrial consciousness and quantum biology in these UAPs, this is the conference for you. It will be in Barcelona, July 6th through 11th. I'm speaking at it with the greatest people ever. There's also a festival of consciousness afterwards, which has to do with art and dancing. And on Friday, July 11th, 2025, they are doing prospects for extraterrestrial consciousness, where they will definitely be talking about plasmoids and these UAP sightings. They will also be talking about non-local consciousness, extrasensory perception, and up there is quantum biology. That's my name. So one of the speakers is Ross Coulthart. He wrote a book, a bestseller called In Plain Sight, which is an investigation into UFOs and impossible science. He is an award-winning journalist, and now this guy's about to get a lot more popular. He has maintained that the US federal government maintains a highly secretive UFO retrieval program, and that's probably what's happening in New Jersey with these drones following these plasmoids, or these UAPs. He talked about in his book these mysterious glowing lights that were reported near New Zealand, and how in 2020, after decades of denial, the US Department of Defense made the astonishing admission that strange aerial and underwater objects frequently reported and videotaped by pilots are real, unexplained, and pose a genuine national security concern. And he kind of shares his opinion on this. So in now comes Stuart Hameroff, and this is when we get back to the electrons. So in the states of matter, there's solid, liquid, gas, and then plasma. In a plasma, the electrons are free. You can think of plasma as the aurora borealis, lightning, how neon signs are made, the sun, the stars. And instead of going very packed together with the nucleus, you have the electrons flying free like birds. So Stuart started studying consciousness because he was an anesthesiologist and he noticed some interesting things. He published a paper called Do Anesthetics Act by Altering Electron Mobility? So basically, to sum the paper up, anesthesia inhibits plasma. That's why this is so interesting and important. But first, this paper that came out in 2024 on extraterrestrial life in the thermosphere about plasmas, UAPs, pre-life in the fourth state of matter, introduces some parallel concepts. So in this paper, they talk about plasmas doing interesting and intentional things. They talk about plasmas forming helical structures that can evolve into double helixes, similar to a double helix of a DNA. Teodorini, who also has the intelligent plasma hypothesis, argues that these helixes can be replicated in other crystals and that the self-organizing ability of these crystals can affect other plasmas, which also may form a plasma dust crystal helix. Theoretically, this could be likened to the horizontal gene transfer. They also say these extraterrestrial plasmas, or what they're calling plasmoids now, that are filmed in the thermosphere might represent a non-biological form of pre-life before the acquisition of RNA and then DNA. Further, when they descend into the lower atmosphere, they would likely be classified as a UAP when observed. So are these plasmas or plasmoids conscious? And how could we possibly tell if we don't even know if we're conscious, or we can't tell how we're conscious? Well, one way to detect consciousness is what goes away when you are getting anesthesia. Can plasmoids be anesthetized? This is where Stuart and his interesting papers come back into play. Okay, now it gets really exciting. So there is something called Kirlian photography. It is immensely beautiful. Essentially, a plasma comes out of a material, including living tissue, and they call this plasma a corona discharge, likened to an aura, as you can see here. So Stuart sent me this awesome image of a phantom leaf. Well, he recommended to look for the image. You can call it a plasma image. Basically, a missing part of a physical leaf is found using Kirlian photography. In my opinion, it's almost like this higher dimensional plasma blueprint of our reality that shapes it. So in this photography, they were able to see the missing part of the leaf. So in this interesting sidestep exploration in Kirlian photography, it came back now to Stuart's team, in their paper, seen if the Kirlian effect, I hope I'm saying it right, if I'm not, I am deeply sorry, but if this effect went away for animals under anesthesia. So Stuart and his team actually put rats to sleep, like actual sleep, under anesthesia, in an enclosed plexiglass chamber. They had their tails on camera, and they passed anesthesia gas into the chamber, and they recorded the plasma or a corona discharge from the tail of the rat. Sure enough, the plasma, this aura, this effect went way down when they were under anesthesia. Where did it go? Then, them being very thorough in their research, someone asked if it was just an effect of the anesthesia working directly on this plasma between the tail and the camera, since the gas was everywhere in the plexiglass box. To bow to this valid observation, they did the experiment in a smaller chamber without the rat and just the anesthetic effect on plasma, which we will see here. So there's an excitation chamber where the gas flows. The chamber is made out of 2 plate electrodes, and the top one is transparent so they could see into it and film. In the chamber on the bottom plate electrode, there was a rectangular metal strip, making it easier to have plasma over it. They then applied a high frequency of alternating fields from an E-field generator, and they recorded its big curvy waves. These excite the electrons in the chamber into little blips on the top of the big curvy waves. They pass a signal through the filter to get rid of the big curvy waves, and then we see the little blips, which are the plasma. They quantify 1, optically seeing the photons, and 2, they count the number of blips as a measure of the plasma intensity. They started by measuring only the air flowing, and then they added various gases, including anesthetics and non-anesthetics. So here in figure 4 on the left side, there is no anesthesia, and you see the plasmas all over in awake state. In the middle image, there's a medium dose of anesthesia, and you see the plasmas over the rectangle, where there's a gap between electrode plates, which is narrower, which explains that. And then on the right side is the deep anesthesia, or unconscious. I'm using consciousness and awake as metaphors here, but there's no plasma where the anesthesia is. This, to me, suggests anesthesia shows the linkage between plasma and consciousness. In figures 5 and 6, they measured electromagnetic radiation, and in figure 6, under anesthesia, it was markedly reduced. Basically, this paper is showing that anesthesia can affect plasma and consciousness. So are these plasmoids conscious? So Stuart says some of these plasmoids are UAPs. They come not from other dimensions. He thinks that they're coming in and out of different scales, that they can get smaller than matter and faster, purely quantum. He thinks if the plasmoids are conscious, it would depend whether the plasma is generated by deeper levels of space-time geometry, which would fit into his Penrose Orch OR theory of consciousness. Orch OR theory has to do with a non-computable quantum processing that consciousness is based on, performed by qubits within the microtubules. So if these plasmoids or orbs are conscious by Penrose quantum gravity effect, it also explains their sudden fast movements without a heat trail, sign of propulsion. It was suggested that they can curve space-time to create holes and almost fall from place to place. There is no other current explanation for this, I believe. So all of this and more, once again, is going to be discussed in the section Prospects for Extraterrestrial Consciousness at the Science of Consciousness Conference in Barcelona, the first week of July 2025. I will be speaking there too. And there will be many, many other theories and talks about consciousness and probably more extraterrestrial UAP talk as well. In my opinion, if plasmoids are conscious, they could be interacting with space-time itself, based on Stuart's theory. They might even be jumping from scale to scale, or what you would call maybe dimension to dimension. Stuart refers to as scales. Almost creating like mini wormholes to travel, which is kind of cool. If this is true, in my mind, consciousness and plasma might be two sides of the same coin, connected through space-time geometry. This could redefine how we think about life, intelligence, and our connection to the entire universe, and plasma and consciousness. All I know is there's some definite link between Stuart's theory, microtubules, plasma, these plasmoids, space-time geometry. It is all connected, and we'll find out more at this conference. Bye.